Yeah, we're live. I gotta move my green screen. I don't know why that I don't know why that bothers me. Hello, everybody. It is Sunday night. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Hopefully, you had a good weekend. We got to this morning, got to watch Lionel Messi and Argentina beat France, although not easily. it was a it was an emotional roller coaster. It was an amazing game. We wanted, in this household anyway, we wanted Messi to win so he could have that World Cup to add to everything else amazing that he's done. But Mbappe was not was trying to make that not happen very much. Although the Argentina guys, some of the scores there for France were gifted because of penalties, but amazing game. It looked like for 80 minutes of the game that it was going to be 2-0 for all the rest of the game. And then France woke up and said, no, I don't think so. And then to win it in kicks at the end, it was an amazing deal. So everybody definitely got their money's worth on that. And it was a great game and everybody played fantastic. And it shows that Messi still has it and that Mbappe is going to be also great doing things differently. He's obviously a different kind of player, but very, very cool. So I'm happy that that Messi's going to have that to add to his list and have that Cinderella story. So we were very happy here. Like I said, very exciting and very emotional. But the other cool thing that happened today is when we took Milo out for a walk, we took him up and walked up some hills and stuff, and so that he could get some exercise, and we could too. But while we were walking back, we noticed a gentleman in his garage, at the garage open, had a truck. He was working on his truck. I'm like, I wonder what that is. And he said, hey, are you Richard Holdener? I'm like, oh, this is definitely going to be a car guy. And Lisa's going, oh, great. This is going to be another hour-long conversation about car stuff. It was so much that Milo just laid down. That's what happens after somebody spots Lisa and recognizes Lisa because she knows everybody from school, and so all of the moms or whatever, the kids, so they'll stop and I'll just be there listening to them talk about school or whatever. And it's the same thing if I meet somebody and they're a car guy or girl, then the conversation is on, and that's what it was. And Milo's like, oh, great, another one of these, and he just lays down and says, okay, this is going to be the deal. I wasn't going to lay down until we got back to the house, but now we're going to. And this particular one was very cool. A 9-second truck, which is pretty impressive. At 145 or 6 miles an hour, if I remember my conversation correctly. So good size turbo S470 or S485 ish. And I think that he had replaced that recently. Because I think he had a VS Racing one on there, and then he put another one on. Now I can't remember what the other one was. He was trying to get more response out of it, and he changed the hot side of it definitely. So, but very cool. Had a big air to air on it, and had stock exhaust manifold feeding one side, feeding into a Y on the other side. And he was working on, I think he was fixing an exhaust valve or something that was damaged. So he was doing some work on it. The intake manifold was off of it. He was putting a different intake manifold on it. So, like car guys do. And the interesting thing is it's like literally, kind of right around the corner. So very cool that when I'm doing videos or doing trading or whatever that we're doing in the morning, I can often hear off in the distance people doing things with cars that are the things that people do with cars, burnouts and whatever. I can hear it. And so I know that in the neighborhood there is that. So I can hear them there, and they're close enough within earshot, and they're consistent enough that I know that they're in this neighborhood. So it's just a matter of walking around and hearing and listening. I know a gentleman down the street has an old, I think it's a 71 El Camino. I didn't get a good look at it, but I think that's about what year it is. So I'll definitely have to go over and talk to him. My neighbor across the street, 73 Mustang convertible with a Cleveland in it. And it's a 4V Cleveland, which is very, very cool. So, and she's owned it for a really, really long time. I don't know if she's the original owner, but very, very cool. So it's in really, really nice shape. So, and it's a driver, she drives it. So it's, Cleveland powered Mustang, very kind of awesome. So there's a lot of that around. And the cool thing is that it's, it's just right here. And so it's all car guys. And we have a local Foster Freeze that the guys go and have, I don't know if it's every week, but they have little car shows that they go over there, so all that's possible. So I need to get the I need to get the Omni back, so I have a car to go do that with, because my truck obviously is not in that kind of shape. And the Omni will be very cool because it will be nice, and it will be worthwhile to do that stuff with. I don't know if I would do next year. I'm thinking about maybe a Chevelle or something, but we'll have to see how all that goes. I got news from the guys down at the car farm, and they got the new clutch in, a flywheel, a pressure plate, all that stuff, a flywheel, and got that in. So all the new stuff is in. So I'll wait and hear back from. And I think I think Brian was going to be doing something. The K member on the car that I bought has been modified. It's had braces and some stiffening done or something, and it's kind of in the way of a couple of things that we are wanting to do. I think it was rubbing on one of the axle boots. What's it all a boot for my Canadian friends up there, friends up north. So I think that there's going to have to be some things done to it. And also Brian wanted to just make it look nicer, because after you make the engine compartment like that nice with a sexy Santa Fe blue paint job, then the other stuff has to be that nice also. So it's very cool that he's going to cares about that stuff and is going to get it done. And then when that goes back in, hopefully they'll be able to drive it and make it work, get the shifter working, and then maybe get some chassis dyno stuff. And if Ben's able to take it over to one of the chassis dyno places, and I hope maybe Brian will go to, that'd be cool. I'd like it if Brian brought maybe his car over there. He's got a 86 GLHS Omni, and Ben also has a GLHS Charger, and then they have a bunch of those that are there that could, like the Spirit RT is also there. So it'd be cool to see. I just, I live and die for numbers. So I'd like to see more chassis dyno numbers of those kinds of things, so that we get an idea on where they are and what they can be, and what, I really like stock stuff. And then I really like stock stuff after it's been modified, but when I know what the modifications are. So we have I think that Ben has a stage 2 computer, so we could take the stock one out of my car and plug that in, obviously with good gas, and make sure that it's the right air fuel and stuff, and then run that, and then the boost, it would run more boost. And so it'd be a cool, fairly simple back-to-back test, because easy plug and play kind of thing. So all of that stuff is good. And I would love to see all the data on that when they get done with it. We need to obviously have a poll for tonight. And the poll will be Neighborhood Watch. Yeah, GH. But do you have neighbors who are fellow car guys or gals? Will be our poll. Let's see. Everyone's in the house. 1 Liter Mafia's in the house. The game today was amazing. Poor Lisa was jumping up and down, screaming. Tom's here. What certification does everyone here have? Like, what do you mean? I have a library card. Does that count? Certifiable. Uncle Squirrel, I didn't know that you were a certified one. That is impressive. Just completed an associate's degree in diesel technology and previously completed an associate's degree in automotive technology. Nice. Lucky guy that has a turbo LS truck that gets to live walking distance. Yeah. I told him I definitely, as soon as he gets it done and gets it back together, I told him I definitely want to ride it. Larry, we already have a poll up. You don't even get to call and find out where the poll is, but I'm already going to live chat in case somebody hasn't mentioned that already. So we are in live. We are live. It's all the way live. Nobody on my street. I'm the only one. Let's see. I'm scrolling. Automotive service satisfaction. Thank you for everything you do. Happy to help, man. My friend used to call small block Chevy or small block Ford street racers street squirrels. I have a G8 GT with this L76. Those are good. Still wanting a turbo build. Well, once you have a turbo on there, like anything, even like a low boost kind of turbo, a 7 pound thing is just, and especially 7 pounds when you're starting with some kind of good, cammed LS kind of V8, even 7 pounds is a lot. Speaking of dyno numbers, just made a down payment on my first chassis dyno, Dynacom DC5000. Nice. If you consider old junk cars and trucks rotting away, then yeah, that counts. Totally counts as neighbors, right? Some of those are better neighbors than some people have. Let's see. I'm the only guy in the neighborhood with the Grand National. I don't know where all the marks come from on the road. Yeah, and they're parallel too, I would imagine. Mostly yes, but no one does much wrenching. They just have nice cars. Yeah. Street cars and modern muscle cars. I'm the opposite of my neighbors. Lucky I respect them. I'm the only Daewoo enthusiast. I was the only one on my block with a Chevy Sprint Turbo, but it was awesome. But I was running. But mine was modded though. I'm only looking for 10 PSI. Did a full DOD delete. 10 PSI is a lot. That's 69% increase. My Cutlass draws in the older guys, and it surprises me how many older women ask about it. Cool. Does your Cutlass, is that the one that has a K series in it or something? No, that's car love, right? I got tired of doing brakes and getting blamed for the fuel pumps going out of the taillights. Yeah. No, it's perfect when it came in. Right. I saw the wiring and it wasn't perfect when it came in. My number comes over. We talk about how to make his EcoBoost F-150 as fast as my modified LS2 GTO. Just going to take some boost. North Carolina is in the house. I have a 2009 G8 TSP Stage 1 and a LS3 cam, full bolt-ons. Looking to boost it soon. Looking at the car tuning turbo kit. What LSA? But it's too common these days. I get a lot of people that want me to do LSA testing. I just don't have one of those kits. I don't have a completed one so that I have everything that I need that I could then do, I guess, the different lids and different flow rates through the intercooler and all of the things that they need. I mean, we kind of know what's going to happen. I mean, not that would stop me from testing it, but we kind of know what if we put cams in it and stuff, because we've done that on other blower things. Headsets for a Nitrous LS1 spraying 150 shot. No, you don't really need that at that power level. You can certainly get by with the stock bolts. Grand National in my yard, 68 Chevy LS truck and a Truck Norris 07 Richie inspired Tahoe. Is the Tahoe running? Are you driving it around? Does it have a stock converter? And then is it working well with the stock converter? Torn between a 9.5 deck solid roller max effort build and an LS swap and a Fox. You need to go boost. Although all motor stuff is also cool. Richard, are you boost certified? I am. I'm Bonneville certified. I'm 200 mile an hour certified. Across the street is a tire-old Camaro with converter so loose it struggles to get up the driveway. That's not good. A Kong 2650 will make 1,000 horsepower. Yeah, they'll make more than that, I think. My jerk neighbor that hates my cars in my backyard shop. I started to be surrounded by cardboard guys that just installed cutouts. I have a roommate, a kid that I've known, a guy that I've known since I was 4. We met when we were 4 years old, and we've been friends ever since. His name is Harold, and he had a Camaro with a neighbor of ours used to complain about it all the time, and because it was too loud. And then I remember he had put headers on it and just had open exhaust. And so one night he just backed his Corvette. It was a Corvette. It was an 84 Corvette. Backed it up into the driveway of the other person and just and then just drove over and shut the garage door. That's what you get. It was awesome. Do you have any videos with big turbos? Class rules, biggest turbo allowed is at 94, 113. Looking for some insight on bigger turbos on small cube LS stuff. Well, the two S475s that we ran would the two of them together would certainly equal a big turbo. I mean, that's 2,000 horsepower worth of. I don't know if a 94 will go to 2,000. I'm thinking it's more in the mid to high thousands. So that's enough turbo for that, but not a single. My dream is to be 200-mile-an-hour certified. Yes, you got to get a red hat. Richard Holder for president. No, thank you. Waiting on my new fuel pump. Update Wednesday. 2650 kit, 9,000. Car tuning kit is 7,000. Will support 900 wheel horsepower, and the 80mm upgrade just made 1,200. Has your neighbor told you to modify the truck yet? No, but she did come out when. Oh, the other neighbor. No, they didn't tell me that. Probably should have, though, huh? I'm sure once I get to know him, he'll be razzing me and tell me, nice truck. Really? Is this stock? No, it has a muffler on it. It has a zoomy muffler on it. Went out to 2.2, pulled the check valve out of the oil filter nipple and drilled it out to 13 millimeter instead of the stock 10 millimeter. Direct connection sold a piece like that, so I thought I should do it. So are you just trying to increase the flow rate? I was wondering about that. We were looking at that. The two things I was looking at the 2.2 is we were looking at the oil filter stud, basically the screw-on part. And then I was looking, when we looked inside of it, it obviously has some sort of little check valve. And I was wondering, we thought that the valve was there so that the pressure doesn't bleed off right away when you turn the car off, when you turn the motor off. So if somebody knows what that's for, please let me know, and let me know if we can get rid of it. I want maximum flow. We've had drag cars since before I was born. We've always been those people, but talked to all the neighbors and came up with 8 p.m. bedtime for whatever car was in the garage at the moment. Yeah, you don't want to. We were young when we were doing this over with Harold, but you would definitely want to be respectful of the guys that are around you. You want to be friends with your neighbors. You want to invite them to all your parties and stuff, and that's all part of it. That way they'll keep an eye on your stuff if you're away and somebody's walking around your place it shouldn't be. They'll come out and shoot first and ask questions later. I came the closest to being a gearhead in my neighborhood. ProCharge V6 Mustang, very cool, with a high stall converter, gears, trans brake, water meth injection, 440 the tire. Good. We've had drag cars. Had a carp on stands one day. Nice lady, few houses down, offered her Triumph twin. Nice as a loaner, but she didn't. That's very cool. Built a 2013 ZL1 that made 850 to the tire with a Kong modified blower. Drives mellow till you get into it. Very cool. So did you put a cam in that thing? I'm sure you weren't doing that with a stock cam, right? Will I have an indirect horsepower gain from adding an oil cooler? You won't get anything from an oil cooler. And ceramic coating my headers? Probably not with the coated headers, I don't think. But you will get rid of some of the underhood heat. And the oil cooler, if your oil temperature is an issue, obviously you'll help cool that off. I'm the only Civic guy in my neighborhood. On boost, the 1.5 makes 330. What 1.5 Civic is it? Don't tell me it's a VX. Or is it a like a CRX? The mic, what's going on? Richard, new sub here. I'm looking to build a 351. However, I cannot find any forged stroker parts available other than the thing on eBay. I'm concerned about that. What do you recommend? Which 351 is it? Is it a Windsor or is it a Cleveland? And either one of those, Scat's probably going to have stuff. K1's probably going to have stuff. JE, Weisco, probably all the normal guys would have that. Coast High Performance, if they're still around, I think that they are. They will probably have stuff. I'm going to use a twin blow-off valve setup Richard used. One of the interesting things is the guy that I was talking to today in the neighborhood said that he had a single wastegate on his setup, and had boost creep. And he said, I wanted to put another valve on. He said, but the only place to put it on for my truck was basically on the cross under pipe going from one exhaust manifold over to the other. And he said, I didn't want to do that because it's just, they're not connected. He said, and then I did. And he goes, that works perfect. I said, yeah, you just get the exhaust out. It's just like getting all the exhaust into the turbo works good. Getting the exhaust out, even in two different places with the wastegates, will control the boost. And so now he has perfect control of the boost. I'm going to see the twin blow-off valve setup. Yeah, I haven't done a twin blow-off valve, but we have done twin wastegates. The 6-liter in the vet will not run right due to the amount of metal in the oil. Oh, okay, that's not good. Let's see. VX block, Y8 CNC. Oh, okay. Wow. Is it a, Maurice, is it a stock VX short block? Do you have ring gap in it? Is it forged pistons? Do you have the Vitara pistons in it? So that everyone uses. Although I think that's for 1.6s, right? My Camaro's almost done. Motor went back in, Whipple, cammed, all valve train, 4 dual pump, E85, Circle D. Waiting on an ATI balancer, then shop will be tuning it. An ATI damper, yeah. Yeah, T, you had the cops called on you for noise or whatever. We've had that happen. Actually, they've come to the guys at West Tech for noise complaints, and I'm like, this is an industrial area, and it's a dyno shop that's been here for, I don't know, 30 or 40 years, however long they've been there. It's been a long time. And usually the police will come in and go, dude, this place is awesome. Like, yeah, please come by anytime. Good peeps. Why is a sloppy stage 2 and 3 $150 with springs, and a stage 1 and 1.5 is $230 Camelone on eBay? Why the stage 2 is so popular? A lot of the stage 2 has been copied by offshore people, and it's been made really, really cheaply offshore. So I don't know if the other ones have been yet. I don't know if they're nearly as popular because they don't have the name. If you ask anybody about a camshaft, a sloppy stage 2, almost everybody in the LS community has heard of that. Not very many people have heard of a stage 1 or a 1.5 or a 3 because not very many people, relatively speaking, have used that. So those are going to be more money because they just haven't been knocked off yet. T, that's nice. See, that's what I'm talking about. They're good people, man. Mike, you're doing a Windsor. There should be lots of Windsor stroker stuff available. How's our poll doing up here? The Polski. Do you have neighbors who are fellow car guys or gals? 61% saying yes, 39% saying no. I think I have a fast car, but then my rich farmer friends have Duramaxes that are tuned. Yeah. They can lay down some diesel rubber. Just bought my wife a 2018 Honda CR-V with a 1.5 liter turbo. I'm going to figure out how to modify it. Should be programs for that, right? Should be flash tunes or something. My neighbors across the street get drunk and ride their side by sides at 3 a.m. Nice. Alan, you think that you have 32 thousandths piston to bore clearance? Do you mean 3 thousandths or 4 thousandths? Probably not 32. $32 would be like ring gap. Nick, do lower duration square pattern cams, do you mean single pattern cams so that the intake and the exhaust duration is the same? Those tend to make less power on the top and sometimes a little more power down low. ZL1 had a PDS stage 3 cam. Yeah, so stock heads. Yeah, it's got enough cylinder head on it. E85 and a big pulley. Yep. Big lower pulley too. Good. That's a good way to go rather than try to put a tiny blower pulley on there. Batari head is the single overcam D setup. Yeah. Can you tell me the name of the company you said to check on the Forge 351? Yeah, Scat is a good one. Take a look at K1 and Weisco and JE. And Coast High Performance also has stuff. And if you do searches, there are like, I'll do one here. So if we do, Jags has them from Eagle, Speedmaster has stuff. CNC Motorsports has stuff. Yeah, if you just do a search for 351 Windsor Stroker kit, yeah, Coast High Performance is there. There's a whole bunch of them that come up. So you should have no trouble finding stuff. Hopefully you'll find stuff that's in stock. And I'm pretty sure that Summit will have stuff in stock. Hello, what is the best 4-cylinder to turbocharge? There's no such thing as the best 4-cylinder to turbocharge. Every 4-cylinder that's ever been made will respond to turbocharging. Cut grass for a couple elderly ladies long ago. One had a 56 Pontiac, the other a 68 Chrysler, and third had a 65 Mustang. Nice. Another people boost unopened LS that lasts quite a while with a good intercooler and 10 pounds. How would a 5.3 last? That's some of them last a long time. You can do whatever you want if you feel that you're going to do that and run it. And I don't know. It's not the boost level. It's how long you're at boost, whatever the starting ring gap is, and the eventual ring temperature. I would say it gets worse with. I would say that the ring temperature gets higher with pump gas that have. It gets higher with turbos that have small hot sides, and also pump gas tunes that have a lot of timing taken away. That's just my opinion. And you also don't know what the ring gap is, so you don't know if it will last or how long it will last. You'll never just blow it up right away unless the tune is wrong on it. We've done it a lot. That we didn't put ring gap. I didn't run 10 pounds on it, I don't think, but we didn't put ring gap in the L33 when we ran a bunch of boost on that. Not a bunch. We ran a bunch of runs, but our air temperature is really cold. The water temperature for the air to water intercooler is very cold. We're running good gas on it, so it's I think it's a little safer than it is on the street. The VX is the Civic that I have, or that I gave to Chad. It's the really high mileage one. It's the D15 Z1 is the designation for it, and it's the super economy VTEC deal. Looking to build a street vehicle to take a weekend drag racing and cruising. Should I go with a car or pickup? The thing that I like about doing it with a pickup is that you can also use it for other things. So if you have, like, now that I have a pickup, it's really hard for me to not have a pickup anymore, even though I didn't have one for most of my life. But now that I have one, and everyone's told me that, yeah, once you get that, you'll not have a pickup. So that's the other plus. Otherwise, get the thing that like speaks to you. Yes, get those likes up. I only got 52 likes. 10-1 forged pistons, shelf stock, Fatera, Spec rods, JDM, D15B crank, same rod journal size as the D16. Yeah, I don't ever worry about hurting a factory crank. None of the Honda cranks you'll hurt. Are the newer 5.7 Hemis good engines? Yeah, You can make lots of power with them. I wrote a book on them, and there's lots of videos up on the channel. Ignacio, I don't know what your question was or what your combination was. I'll have to scroll back and see what you were talking about. I don't know enough to make a judgment on power because I don't know what the boost level is, the camshaft, all of that stuff. I need to know more information before I could determine how much power it will make. I'm buying a GT45 tonight. Where should I buy it? Online is the best place. Do you have any experience with Mass or Pro Max rectangular port LS1, LS6 heads? A rectangular port wouldn't be an LS1, LS6. A rectangular port would be an LS3 style head. Would love to get a 2650 on top of a C5. I believe the Kong needs to work with rectangular heads. It does. I haven't seen rectangular port heads that will fit on that. If it's an LS1 or an LS6, which is a 5.7, that will fit on that bore size. Maybe somebody makes a small port, rectangular port. Most people do adapters onto the cathedral port thing, and you can obviously do that. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to do. L80 6.2 power level. Can it make 650 to tire with a 2650? Yeah, very easily. The LT4 fuel pump and injectors, and I think you're going to have to do something to the feed pump. And the camshaft will have to probably have a lobe on it, something more than the stock lobe. And then yeah, you can do that. How much piston to valve clearance does the L8353 have? I don't know. It has the least amount of piston to valve. It has less piston to valve clearance the L83 does than the L86 or the LT1. So it has the least amount in the LT family. But you can fit, Brian Tooley has some pretty good cams for that. They have some even bigger ones that they notched the pistons for to make work, because they also ran ported heads and milled heads and then like a 220-ish kind of cam in there that required valve release. But they also have cams that fit, and the cams that fit actually will make really good power. For the Windsor, CNC Motorsports and Clegg offer great stroker options. Yeah, there's lots of them for the Windsor out there. Richard, on an LS turbo motor, if you run a small turbo manifold, hot side, you mean like a small exhaust manifolds? I don't think so. I think ultimately I don't think that is going to stop or slow spool down. I think the spool is going to be a function of the power output versus the turbo size. And I don't know if the manifold is going to help that. I don't know if a smaller manifold, like getting velocity through the manifold, is going to do that, because it's going to have to come into some sort of Y pipe anyways. I think that the Y pipe size then could become something, but probably only on a bigger turbo, where the Y pipe isn't restrictive. And then if the hot side, like it's a big T6 or something, you might be able to do that. Air filter lid flip. I do need to do that. I need to do the Quadrajet lid flip. Richard, have you done a GT45 on a 5.3? Yes, many times. Lots of locals run Urson cams. I've been looking into them. I'm currently in the market for cam and accompanying accessories. Is a reason I should stay away from Urson. I haven't run any Urson stuff in a long time, since way back in the super shops days. But if they have LS cams and that's what you're using, they should know what they're doing. If you tell me the specs on the cam that you're talking about, we can give you an idea of what it might do. Could you get your hands on an SB2 for some dyno testing? No, probably not. The guys at West Tech have a couple of, older generation cup motors, but they would all be after SB2 stuff. These are better than that. And they've run them a bunch, but they're such a pain to run. They have, you've got to have the right oil in them, and you got to get it up to temperature, and they're too finicky for, some of them a couple of them made some pretty good power numbers, up over 800. But it's just not a motor that I want to flog on, because it's just way too expensive. One of the cylinder heads costs way more than another motor that I would be running. Just got back from Wendover, out by the Bonneville Salt Flats, and did some gambling. Nice. I drove through there on my way to and from Ohio. Are there any good engine removal videos, like taking it out of a C5? I haven't really looked for that, so I don't know. Any LS or Honda will be easy to build. Yep. I spun a 79 EB3 Honda 1200 to 9300 once. Been an intake valve. Do you have any visions of them shaving the pistons yet? You mean are you talking about the L83? I think I have pictures of the notching, but not them going through the process. I think that they did it the way that everybody does it. I think that they took a notching tool and put it in the head and spun it with a drill and put the head on, and then spun it and notched it where it needed to be. I don't think there was anything technical about it. Have you tested any of the aftermarket intakes? Aftermarket intakes for which engine family? If the question is small block Chevy, big block Chevy, small block Ford, big block Ford, Hemi, LS 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, whatever, then the answer is yes. I've tested lots of them. Think about running the Bright Stage 4 LL83 truck cam, but kind of nervous about fly cutting, knowing all that. I don't think you need a stage 4. You should look at a stage 1 or 2 for that. You'll get 90% of the power gains from the smaller camshaft, and then you don't have to go through the problems. Jimmy, that would be a really good cam if you could make all of that work. Regarding dormant intake manifolds for 4.6 Fords, I understand they make less power. I've heard people say they also lose fuel economy. Everyone's going to tell you to drop it out of the bottom. Have you tried the Corvette forum? Since SVT never made a Lightning for the 2004 to 8 150, I thought about building my rendition. I don't know if it would want to keep the 5.4 valve or look for a 4-valve head. You can make plenty of power with the 3-valve. It flows enough to support way more power than the 5.4 would ever make. And I'm hoping you're going to put boost on it. Richard, yes to the single square pattern camshaft. So what would my thoughts be? So anybody, especially if you're new here, when you're asking a question, just don't use the word thoughts in there. Okay, that's a no here. Back cutting inlet valves, cordless drill, and a bench grinder. Have you ever reviewed a PT 8847 turbo on the dyno? I have run an 88 millimeter, but I don't think it was a precision. I think it was way back when I did it on a 327 inch, like A4 blocked, steel cranked, small block Ford. But I think that 88 millimeter was either a medium frame or a T6. And I think it was from Turbonetics or Innovative Turbo or Innovative Turbo maybe, but not the precision one. L76 6-liter port, rec port 218, 229. It's a VVT cam? Have you done a GSR Mini-Me engine? I had a GSR, or I had a GSXR 750. That's not what you're talking about, though. What do you think the horsepower gains would be for a ported MSD atomic intake for an LS6 versus a non-ported one? The 2 times that I've tested ported versions, I've not tested one on an MSD. I have tested ported versions of the fast intake manifold, and neither time did they make any power. So as of right now, at least from the data that I haven't seen that sort of porting do anything. I want it to, and I want it to be worth power. So far, it has not. I also want to test one of the Mod Rod ported LS3 intake manifolds, I guess. I want to test one of those. But porting an MSD, unless you've already taken care of everything else, that's not somewhere I would go look for power. What is the most reliable supercharger or procharger setup for a work truck? You don't have to worry about the reliability of the supercharger itself. Anything that you would get, whether it's an Eaton or a Kenny Bell or a Whipple or a Procharger, Vortec, Torque Storm, whatever it is, the supercharger will last almost indefinitely. How do you feel about those water-to-air intake intercoolers? I don't know which ones you're talking about. We use air-to-water intercoolers most of the time, 95 to 99% of the time on the engine dyno, and they work fantastic. I've run precision turbos a number of times, and every one that I've run has worked very, very well. Regis, are you running the factory ECU? If you are, then I'm probably not the right guy to ask about it. Although, I would. You need to troubleshoot it to figure out what's going on. Is it losing fuel? Is it losing spark? The one that's sandwiched between the top and the bottom like a holly. Those work. We've run them before. And as long as you have them sized for the power level that you're trying to do, and as long as you get good water flow to them, they work good. Sean, if that question is for me, I've not done a D16 with a D17 head. I've only done D16s with D16 heads. Or B16s with B16 heads. Actually, B16s with also B18 heads, and B18s with B16 heads, and B20s with all of those heads. Sorry, I've not heard the latest, but how's the L78 coming along? It's been neglected because of the Mopar. It's in my garage, so it has been neglected. It's been painted, and I think what I need to, I think I need to get rings for it. Just regular Hastings rings. The LS versus Coyote for 1,500 horsepower. They both will make that, but neither one of them are going to make it comfortably on the stock block. We've done it before, but it's not something you'd want to go race a whole bunch. Who should I contact for a turbo kit for a small block Ford? I don't know about kits. I don't do a lot of testing like that. I always build my own when we run it on the dyno, because anything that, with rare exception, anything that fits in a specific chassis, like a Mustang. We've tested Mustang kits in the past, one from HP Performance, and we modified it so that it would fit in and around the things that we have on the engine dyno. So we just, anymore, I just usually pick a particular size turbo and run that. And then whatever the rest of the stuff is almost irrelevant. I see David Visor is going to port your 2.2 Chrysler head. Yeah, he's already done that. I think he's just waiting to do the valve job to finish it up. What size rings do I need for the L78? I think it's a 60 over. It might be 40. I need to check. How's the old neglected 5.9? It's just sitting there waiting to run. Really, I think the 5.9 only needs springs. It needs springs, and then it needs to have the pistons flipped back into place, into their normal place. But it does need to run. How are we doing on our poll? 57% are saying yes, they have fellow car guys or gals. Because really all I need to do is get a spring package for the stock Magnum heads, and then I can run boost on it. I already sent back the modified kegger manifold and throttle body to the guys at UT Awesome. I have his camshaft, so I just need to run the camshaft. I could send that back. Front-wheel drive LS4 reliable horsepower upgrades. Cam and springs would be the first thing. If you can find another intake manifold that fits on there, that LS4 manifold is just terrible. Pictures, is there a place where I can get GM supercharged rotors repaired and recoated? Magnuson was a factory authorized Eaton supercharger repair facility, so you might want to talk to them. Sleeved Coyote. I know that in talking to Mahovitz that the racers were breaking the Coyote blocks at the levels that they were running them at, so that's why they did that. That's why they did that billet one. The truck manifold can fit on the LS4 in the car. The truck manifold will fit under the hood of an LS4. And weren't there other problems that weren't the accessories different on the LS4? That's why they couldn't run that. Just order the Hughes engine $11.99 kit for springs. It's the only real direct bolt-on option that will support 600 lift for hydraulic roller and a Magnum. Hughes. Spring kit. I haven't even taken the springs off to measure them to see if we may have something at West Tech. Scoring an AR5 tomorrow. Hope to connect to an Elm 7 and a Nova. That'll be good. Yeah, the truck manifold's not going to win a beauty contest, but it performs a million times better than the LS4. LS4 has no provision for a starter. It has a provision for a starter when it's in the car, though. Can you do a video comparing different lifters? I don't know what I would only be able to show if there's a difference in power, and there probably isn't going to be, at least not with the kind of motors that we run. People would be more concerned about longevity on the lifters, and I don't know, maybe lifter tick or something. We wouldn't be able to hear that on the engine dyno. Recommended boost options for a bone stock ZZ502 and a 70. I'm sure that's vet level, old school nostalgia of a blower peeking out of the hood. Well, 671 would be good for that. Or if you want more power, an 871, or if you like the bigger one, an 871. You could also do a Vortec or ProCharger, that kind of thing. But or twins. The guys from TorqueStorm have a twin TorqueStorm setup for big blocks. I have one of those. And that would work good. Although for something sticking out of the hood, it's hard to beat the big roots blower. Have you tested a 4-pattern cam? Yeah, we have tested that at West Tech. Trying to choose engine build for a manual IROC. I think would be fun, but I'm picking between boost and the original 305 TPI. Build an NA 383 TPI or build an NA L83. I'm interested in the L83 potential. Are you talking about the L83 Gen 5 motor or the L83 Crossfire injected motor? And if you're building a 383 with tune port on it, especially if it has the factory tune port on it, I wouldn't go crazy on the camshaft or the cylinder heads because it's just not going to make a lot of power if it's got the factory TPI on it. Would a stroker motor have a better synergy with a centrifugal supercharger over positive displacement blower? No, not necessarily. They just would do the same thing. I mean, a positive displacement blower is going to have more low-speed boost response, and it's not going to be as efficient on top. That's going to happen regardless of what motor you put it in. The stroker, if you have a centrifugal blower and you're comparing the smaller motor versus the bigger motor is going to have more low-speed power. So it's going to probably feel a little better if you were locked into the centrifugal. But on a positive displacement blower, the same thing is going to happen. It's going to have more low-speed power and not as much. It would have more top end power too. So the bigger motor is just going to make more power everywhere. Dono, yeah, yes. Machine Shop, hurry up. He's waiting. 1071, you can go all the way up. Thank you, Richard. Just looking for a good next step from the PT88 to another size on a 406. I want to have a bit more efficiency with 1,000 wheel horsepower without going crazy on the size. The 88, an 88 millimeter turbo is way more like a 1,500 horsepower turbo than a 1,000 horsepower turbo. You only need an S485 or S480 for 1,000 wheel horsepower. So I think you're oversized on your turbo already for that power level. Late to the party, but my neighbor has an intercooled Grand National, very cool, and a Gen 5 Camaro, also cool. How do I get the poll to get off my screen? I voted already. Just click away from anything, just like in the corner of the poll. If you click in the corner of the poll, it will minimize it. First thing I'm looking at is part number. You got to tell me, just tell me what the duration is. Tell me what the intake and exhaust duration is. And please make it not be a very big cam, because if you're doing a 5.3 with ported 706 heads on it, you don't need a very, and S4 the 78 75, you don't need a very big cam. You need a small cam. Is Coyote the same as a 4.6? Does anything interchange between them? I don't know. I don't know if you could bolt any of that same stuff on. The bore spacing is the same. I just don't know about the interchange. I would bet that the heads bolt on, but I don't know how the cam drive and all that stuff is between the two. The cheap option is the Trick Flow 16982-16 for around 540 lift. Okay. If I can get that at Summit, I have a credit at Summit, so it would be good if I could get that. $600 lift Magnum. That is TFS. Brian, thanks for watching, man. Hey, Richard, where am I going? Where am I going? Oh, 03 6-liter Silverado through knock sensor codes, replaced both sensors and harness. Worked fine 3 months. Now it's throwing the same code and pinging. Both sensors ohm out okay. Maybe the sensors are doing what they're supposed to be doing? Do you have a break in the harness somewhere? Do you have a ground problem maybe? Does the knock sensor throw codes when the knock sensor activates, like if it's pulling timing? I don't think it throws a code if it's operating correctly, right? Only when the sensor fails. So somebody's saying that the Coyote rods are an upgrade for the normal 4.6s. If you still have your 3800, then I need to inform you there's a recall for the front cover gasket. I think mine's good. And if it leaks, we really don't care. So Jonathan, you're rescuing a 59 Stewed. Nice. Supposedly there's an investment cast 4200 manifold. The guy already approached me about that, and I'd already talked to Calvin about it. Mackenzie, when you did the LSA cam test, the 108 made more power everywhere, but tight LSA cams are rare for LS stuff. Why? Mostly for idle and drivability, because power production isn't the only thing that people are considering when they're buying camshafts. And also, just changing the LSA and keeping everything else the same, which is what I tried to do when we had those cams around, might not be the ideal choice for making a particular cam. would like to see a V10 Ford. I would too. I'd like to run one of the Tritons. In your dyno experience, what are the horsepower boundaries? There's not an absolute power limit for the size of headers. Can you tap a knock sensor by hand? Not by hand, but you'd have to do it with some sort of metallic object. You probably could hit the block with a hammer, possibly, and make it activate. If I use a truck intake on LS4, would I need an aftermarket throttle body, or will the truck one work? I don't remember what the bolt pattern was on the LS4 versus an early truck. An early truck is a 3-bolt, but I don't remember what the LS4 is. I'd have to look at and see. The knock sensors are under the intake, yeah. On the earlier, on the Gen 3 stuff, right? 15 foot-pounds. When it comes to street racing setups, would you prefer a longer trans gear or a shorter rear end? I don't know which one of those would be better. I've never seen any sort of comparison for both of those. Bubba Stevens, yes, on a BTR Stage 4 cam, you will need to fly cut the pistons on your L83. And the guys from BTR will be able to tell you that. Have you tested primary diameters much on headers? Yes, I have 1 3/4 versus 1 7/8 header. I thought I have that test up already. And it doesn't do what people think. The 1 7/8 headers on the LS actually made a little bit more very low speed power. So it's not, it doesn't do it. People think that the bigger header flows more, and so you get, what it does is it provides a different frequency, so different scavenging. And one of them doesn't make. I remember arguing with a particular person in the industry, and them telling me though, yeah, we pick up 20 horsepower going from 1 3/4 to an 1 7/8 header. I'm like, I know that the 20 horsepower number that people throw around is not. I don't see that when we test. Richard, what's the biggest cam I can run in my 83 Z28 with a 305 street car so the air conditioning will still work? Well, the air conditioning will always work no matter what camshaft you put in it. The idle will go away if you put a big camshaft in it. Mackenzie, there's a million questions I still have about dyno stuff, which is why I keep doing it. And usually it's specific to particular combinations, but there's a lot of stuff that I haven't tested yet. Bubba, I don't know what the cut depth is, if that's what you're asking. But the guys from Brian Tooley know, because they've already done that. They've already done it for heads. I mean, for that camshaft, and they've also done it not only for that camshaft, but they've done it for that camshaft and milled and ported heads. So they should be able to tell you there. The Urson cam is a 220, 228. That's bigger than it needs to be for that, but that will work with what you're doing. It's just the 112 plus 2. That'll still idle fairly well. Can too large of a primary cause power loss? I haven't run, like we've run 1 7/8 headers on a stock 4.8, and we didn't see a loss. You won't see a loss compared to a stock exhaust manifold, because a stock exhaust manifold has no primary length. It's very, very short, so it's no scavenging effect at all. Planning to make a log turbo manifold for my 3800 out of black steel pipe, Schedule 40 stuff. I don't need advice on it. I just wanted to say, okay, Sanders 40 will work fine. The factory exhaust manifolds will work also, so that you know, will also work very fine on those. If it's way big, there can be a loss. Would you have to fly cut for the Summit 8704? Is it 8704 an L83 camshaft? I don't know what that is. I do have one question on it, actually. Are the stock exhaust ports 1.5-inch diameter? I don't know. I don't have one in front of me to measure. Kevin, unsure if I went too big on my cam, 231, 247 on a 408. That's probably fine for a 408. Say you're running a 250 shot of nitrous on a 550 horsepower motor. Would you want to go oversize on the exhaust valve, on the exhaust port valve to accommodate the nitrous? Race only engine, so no worries about low end. You can do that, but it's not going to gain you anything. If the exhaust porting that you're doing, the exhaust port and the change of the exhaust valve, some guys run a 50-degree exhaust valve. On the valve job, they run a 50-degree cut on there. But the thing is, if it doesn't add more NA power on a 250 shot, I don't see how it's going to add more power with the nitrous. If you put a 250 shot on a 550 horsepower motor, you're going to make 800 horsepower. Let's see. Is it possible to make a video of the most good parts for upgrade and economical and expensive and how good they are? I don't know. I honestly don't understand what you're asking. Maybe it's a translation thing or something. Was the small block Chevy 350 made to compete with the Mopar 340? Did the 350 come out before the 340, or did the Mopar was first, right? I don't think that was its goal in life. I don't think that was its design purpose. All right, Kentucky's out. '73 Shovelhead, rebuilding a small block Chevy 30 for a 30 model, full fender hot rod. Stick with a 350 or stroke it. A 383 will make more power and drive around better and stuff. So if that's what you want, then that will work. Otherwise, a 350 works fine. Banks, what's the best cam? I don't know what you're trying to do. So if you give me an idea of what you want to have out of your LS4, do you want a 10,000 RPM LS4? Do you want a stock one? Do you want something in between there? Are you using the stock converter? Are you worried about the transmission? Do you have any other mods to it? I'm sure it's an automatic and not a stick. At least I could assume that. A good go-to camshaft for like all around driving and making good power. Look at the Truck Norris cam that we ran on the 5.3. Your LS4 is that, so it will work fine. Will Moonshine run about the same as E85 or E99? It doesn't. It made a lot less power on the Moonshine that we tested. Visor likes bigger exhaust valves on boosted engines. That's fantastic. The sloppy best cam is the best cam. It says so right in the name, right? 2 more minutes. Methanol will kind of definitely more. What video have I'm almost done editing the video on the fast versus the truck intake manifold on the L3353. So that should go up either tonight or tomorrow morning. Sometimes not a good idea to put them up late at night because nobody's watching. Methanol will definitely make more power, and obviously E85 does well. Any high RPM hill climb V8 topics? Judd V8? Or maybe Judd V8 is definitely different than a 1UZ or anything else that we talk about here, because I've heard those. Although I thought that the Judd motor that we were, when I was at Daytona, they were racing Judd motors, and they were racing the Cadillac, the SP333, I think, which was a V12. And I thought the Judd was a V10, but maybe it was a V8. It sounded really nice. This is a super broad question, but ideally, what are good numbers for a 7.5 liter square motor? What kind of motor is it? What kind of head does it have on it? What kind of intake manifold does it have on it? There's lots of questions here. Where did you get the moonshine from? We got it from a bourbon distillery that made it for us. It wasn't store-bought stuff. We've got to do a boosted Scirocco or a Jetta. I do like those. I remember the old Callaway stuff, the old Callaway 8-valve turbo stuff. What's the casting number on a 5.3 L83? On the block casting number or the head? Darren Morgan increases exhaust valve ratio also. That's great. And if you were building a top flight 2,000 or 3,000 horsepower motor, there would be other things that I would do too. But for the average guy putting together an LS, there's no reason to do that, because the amount of power that you make NA, whatever it is, whatever your combination is, forget about rod ratio and forget about intake to exhaust flow. Just tell me what the NA power is, and then we will be able to tell you how much power that makes at boost or with nitrous. And it will work just about every time. And it has nothing to do with changing the exhaust valve size or any of that. Bubba, yours will be the last question. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll now at 57% saying yes, they have fellow gearheads in their neighborhood. I have an LQ4. I want to put a BTR Stage 4 and 706 heads. Do you think that that's a good combo? I do. I honestly think for me that camshaft is bigger than I would put in unless I was racing it. I wouldn't have that in a daily driver. I would put a smaller camshaft in there. But if you like the chop and you want all of that stuff, then that's fine. Do you think you can hear the difference between a 4-valve and a 2-valve engine? I don't know if I've ever... I know that a 4.6 2-valve Mustang sounds completely different than a 4.6 4-valve Mustang does. So I would know the difference between those two, especially a Terminator one, because a supercharged one sound even different. And then motors that have lots of exhaust duration sound different. But it would be more distinct between if you were listening to a 4-valve Coyote and a 2-valve LS. They're definitely going to sound different, but they're completely different engine families, though. And on that note, it is time to go. Thank you guys all for showing up. I'll put the video up on the fast, and then I think the next one to go up on the after the fast versus the truck intake manifold is spark plugs. Cheap $3 spark plugs versus $30 spark plugs. Do we get lots of power by spending more money? And on that note, it's time to go. And click the button, and I clicked, and